I call to order this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission. City Clerk or Deputy City Manager, excuse me, may we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Gary, Mayor Pro Tem Bauer,
Here.
Commissioner Baspas Rath,
Here.
Commissioner Habusta,
Here.
Commissioner Marble,
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein,
Here.
Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
Is there a motion to excuse Mayor Gary?
So moved.
Support? All those in favor of excusing Don Gary signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let us now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, A4, mayor comments and general announcements. I have none. We have no proclamations or recognitions tonight. Notice of public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on any of our items tonight? Hearing none, let's move on to the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Troyer, go ahead.
Thank you. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of January 6, 2025. Item 2, acceptance of the Downtown Development Authority meeting minutes of November 13th. Item 3, acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and Tax Increment Finance Authority 3 meeting minutes of December 10th. Item 4 is authorization of the purchase of generic time from MERS by Joe Kelly. Item 5 is consideration of a resolution for the Michigan Lottery recognizing Sioux Area Arts Council, Inc. as a nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license. And item 6 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Would anyone like to move to approve tonight's consent agenda? Commissioner Baspas Rath.
Thank you. Motion to approve consent agenda.
Support.
Having a motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There are no special orders of business tonight that I am aware of. None. There are no communications listed. Let's move on to G, business items. Number 1, consideration of bid award for the purchase of a new police snowmobile. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up first for commission consideration is a request to approve the purchase of a 2025 Ski-Doo from All Star Marine. This item was bid out. The bids are included in your item. This is part of a grant that the police department receives through the federal government. The grant itself will cover the cost of the purchase with the outfitting. Less $3,200, which is in the number 2 motion to come from the general fund. So 2 motion to award the bid to All Star Marine, and motion to approve the budget amendment as presented.
Would anyone like to comment? Hearing none, Commissioner Habusta.
Yes, motion to award the bid to All Star Marine and Power Sports for the purchase of the 2025 Ski-Doo Renegade Adrenaline 900 Ace 4-stroke in the amount of $13,765.
Support.
Having motion and support, let's move forward. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the budget amendment to 101-902-977.301 in the amount of $3,200 to come from the general fund contingency.
Support.
Having motion and support, let's move on this. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, business item number 2, consideration to waive the bidding process and award purchase of QuantaFit 2 respiratory fit testing instrument.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up next for commission consideration is a request to waive the bid purchase process, as well as the motion to purchase a QuantaFit 2 fit testing instrument to OHD LLLP in the amount of $10,450. This request is part of our AFG grant the fire department received. QuinFit is part of the equipment that we have at the fire department right now. This would be, it's essentially the machine that goes over the face to make sure their, the fit testing is done correctly for all their CBAs and all their equipment. So this is a company that we recommend using as it integrates with our equipment. So that's the two motions: motion to waive the bid process for sole source and motion to award the purchase as presented.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Abusta.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The one question I had was just a quick Google search indicated there were some secondhand vendors that might sell this as well, but I'm assuming that would not carry a warranty or items, along that line. Is that why it's considered sole source?
Correct. Second, well, I mean, if it's, I don't know specifically what the websites are, but typically if they're, I want to say secondhand, but I don't want to say secondhand. If they're a secondhand or a second source website, they don't come with the warranties from them. You don't know the condition of them, so it's best for us to buy directly from the vendors
Thank you.
or the manufacturers.
Would anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Rubenstein.
Motion to waive the bid process for a sole source purchase of the Quantifit 2 fit testing instrument from OHD LLP.
Support.
All right, having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Continue.
Motion to award the purchase of one Quantifit 2 fit testing instrument to OHD LLP in the amount of $10,450.
Support.
Having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries again unanimously. G3, consideration of MDOT Category A grant closeout for Ord and Salmon Run City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve change order number 2 in the amount of negative $241,129, as well as a motion to authorize a refund to MDOT in the amount of $71,414. Long story short, this is part of the Carbide Dock project. We received a Category A MDOT grant. Thankfully, the project came under budget, but if the project comes under budget, we don't just get to keep the revenue. So this closes out the Salmon Runway and Ord Street portion of the projects, as well as the Category A MDOT grant. Like I said, because the project came in under budget, there's a closeout, or there's a change order to close out the contract, as well as a reimbursement for funds unused to MDOT. So two motions: motion to approve the change order and motion to authorize the refund as presented.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Abusta.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just one quick question. I noticed that 20% came from city ARPA funds. There's no way to return that money instead of going back to MDOT to return it to city ARPA dollars. I'm assuming those had to have already been spent.
So the Category A, it's an 80-20 grant. So the Category A grant will pay for 80% of it. The city ARPA share was put in to cover the city's 20% share of it. Because the project came in under budget, the remaining MDOT funds will be reimbursed to MDOT. The remaining match funds for the city will remain in the pot of money for the Carbide Dock.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marble, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you. Motion to approve change order -002 in the amount of $241,129.68 to close out the contract with Payne and Dolan.
Any support?
Sorry, support.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Continue.
Motion to authorize a refund to MDOT of $71,414.94 to return overpayment of Cat A MDOT grant received.
Support.
All right, we have motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. G4, consideration of Rowan change order number 12 for Eagle Shore Power at Carbide Dock. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up next for commission consideration is approval of change order number 12 for Rowan related to work for the Eagle Shore Power Grant in the amount of $506,000, and a motion to amend the project budget with the extra $471,000 coming from the general fund balance. So as part of the Carbide Dock project, we received a grant for the shore power, the electrification of the site from Eagle. This particular project was bid out and kind of on hold as long as we could due to some of the prices and how high they were. Kind of moving forward with the prices that the contractor has for it, we're ready to move forward with the project. The work does exceed our project scope or our project budget by $506,000. The proposed plan would have that money coming from the fund balance. Our fund balance would drip down to about 10%, a little bit less, to which we would have to put in a local, called a corrective action plan over the next 3 to 5 years to build that fund balance up, which we would do during the budget processes for the next couple of years. So two motions, motion to approve Rowan's change order number 12 and a motion to amend the project budget by $471,000 coming from the general fund balance.
Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Rubenstein.
Just a question for the city manager. Do you see any more change orders of this size coming in the foreseeable future?
So, no, there isn't going to be any more change orders. This is the last puzzle piece to the project. This should be it. The last change order that we discussed, that was a big one, that was for the MARAD grant portion of the project. This one is for the shore power side of it. This is it. This is the last phase of this project. The work will start here in the spring, going into the summer, and probably be wrapped up in the fall, just depending on when all the orders come in. But I don't anticipate any other large change orders of any size coming back for this project or anything else.
Go ahead.
With the approvals that we just had for the wastewater treatment plan and the water treatment plant, is there potential for any large change orders with those projects in the future?
So with the wastewater, with the projects for the wastewater and the water system and the collection system, those are bonded out. Those are one source. If we exceed our funds available for the borrowing, the project would just have to be cut. What makes this project a little bit different from that type of project is we've leveraged grants upon grants upon grants upon grants to kind of stack them together to get all this work done. So in order to satisfy the requirements for the MARAD grant, we essentially said, we're building X, and they said, great, you have to build X. So in order to build X, we had the MARAD grant, we leveraged it to get other grants, to get state appropriations, all that different stuff. So it's kind of like a Jenga tower in the sense that if you were to not do a smaller piece of the work, the whole thing could kind of come tumbling down, because that's the way we stacked and to bridge the gap that we had going into this project when we started it a couple of years ago now. So wastewater treatment plants and the collection systems, that's one revenue, or that's one funding source, one project use. If it comes out, once we bid it out, if the bids come up high, we just cut that portion of the project. We did it with the first round of borrowing that we did, or not the first round of borrowing, but the first set of bids that we did last year. There was a number of items that came back, excuse me, higher than the project would afford, and we cut those items out, or we looked for alternatives. So it's a little bit different in the sense that the MARAD grant said we had to accomplish X, or we lose all those grant funds, or we're on the hook to repay all those grant funds. The wastewater water system projects, there's some requirements out there to do the projects, but there's not a requirement there that says you're doing X, so you have to do X come heck or high water. So it's a little bit different in that sense. Plus, if it's a different funding source too. I mean, if there's for those projects, those are the utilities fund balances and all that stuff, but it's not the same. We wouldn't dip into anything general fund wise for the utilities.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments? Commissioner Abusta.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is just a quick question for the city manager. Have you and the finance director explored corrective actions at all? And I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire as to what those would be necessarily, but I'm just wondering if conversations have been initiated and a plan beginning to be formed.
No, not yet. And like I said, a lot of that will be kind of working out with the budget process that we're kind of into right now. We brought the policy forward, we reviewed it late last week, and that was about it. So that's where we're at with that.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Talentino, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would, thank you. Motion to approve road change order number 12 to Ingle Shore Power in the amount of $506,611.
Support.
All right, having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to amend the project budget with an extra $471,400. Whoops. Does anyone want to make that motion? Commissioner Talentino.
Motion to amend the project budget with an extra $471,400 coming from the general fund balance.
My
Support.
apologies. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Number 5, consideration of contract amendment for design engineering services for Rotary Park Bathroom Pavilion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. As the commission knows, we are currently working on the Rotary Park Bathroom Pavilion. That's a project that had a significant funding source coming out of the local Rotary group here. Being that it's a federal, it's not technically a federal piece of property, but it's very close to a federal piece of property, there's some extra work that needs to be done. This change order authorizes that work to be done, and we'll add on extra $16,000 in the contract. In talking with C2AE, who's the engineers on the project, this dollar amount should cover any extra work that's coming to this due to the some of the federal requirements. But they've also committed that anything else moving forward, they'll just rope into the overall price, and they won't seek out any kind of further increase in the project. So 2 motions: motion to approve contract amendment 1 with C2AE, and a motion to amend budget. Motion to amend the budget in the amount of $16,900 from land sales.
And thank you once again to Rotary. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, Commissioner Habusta, would you like to have this one?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Motion to approve contract amendment number 001 with C2AE for design engineering services for the Rotary Park Bathroom Pavilion.
Support.
Having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to amend the budget in the amount of $16,900 with funds to come from land sales.
So moved.
Whoops. You want to read that again, just for old time's sake?
Not really. Motion to amend budget in the amount of $16,900 with funds to come from land sales.
Support.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. I'm going to try not to make that mistake a third time. Business item G6, consideration of notice of intent resolution 2025 CWSRF and DWSRF water and sewer revenue bonds. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is the next step coming off from our discussions in December of 2024 regarding borrowing for this year for the DW and CW SRF projects. This is the intent resolution, which essentially publicizes the city's intent to bring on the debt. It provides certain information that needs to be published in the newspaper and some other sources. Included in this item is a memo and the documents from our bond attorney, Pat McGow. Again, this is the next steps here in this project. Motion to approve the notice of intent as presented.
Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Bosbus Rath, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Motion to approve the Notice of Intent Resolution 2025, CWSRF and DWSRF Water and Sewer Revenue Bonds in the amount not to exceed 46 million combined.
Support.
All right, having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 5-1. Let's move on. D7, or not D, but G, thank you. G7, consideration of bond authorizing resolution 2025 capital improvement bonds for water main projects. City manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Next up for commission consideration is a motion to approve Resolution 2025 capital improvement bonds for the water main projects. This is the kind of tag-along borrowing that we initiated last year with the first round of DWSRFs. This is the non-eligible costs for the Peck and Eureka improvements. This is going to solely be used for the water infrastructure over in that area. The CWSRF is going to install new sanitary mains and storm sewer mains. While we were under the ground, if you recall from our conversations, we were looking to replace the water side of it. We brought this borrowing as a kind of a secondary item outside of that project. The amount of it is $2.9 million. This one actually authorizes us to borrow out those funds. So this would be the final step in the borrowing process. Kind of closes that out. We get the money. The project's already been bid out. Everything's in motion. This was previously approved by the commission sometime during 2024 or late 2023. And again, this is just the component of it for the water side of it. So we look for a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Are there any questions or comments regarding this issue? Commissioner Bosphus Rath, would you like to make the motion?
Certainly. Motion to approve the Resolution 2025 capital improvement bonds for water main projects in the amount not to exceed 2.9 million.
Support.
Having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 8, consideration of the 2025 through 2031 capital improvement plan. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up next for commission consideration is approval of the 25 to 2031 capital improvement plan. This is something that's been in works since early October-ish. Department heads put in their request, the engineering department, they've produced the document for us. There was a call for projects from the public that was conducted at the Plan Commission. This document itself was also followed up with approval recommendation by the Plan Commission as required by state law during the February 18th meeting. This is kind of the last stop for this document is approval by the City Commission. Kind of moving forward, after approval, the first year and second year projects get baked into the budget document that we're working on right now. Anything that's in the CIP is not guaranteed funding. That all kind of shakes out during the budget process. So we would look for a motion to approve the CIP as presented.
Does anyone have comments regarding the 2025 through 2031 CIP? Commissioner Rubenstein.
Just a quick question on this one, and I guess the user fees. Maybe I missed it. Is there a reason why not to wait until goal setting?
So the CIP, so with goal setting in February, really anything that comes out of goal setting is going to need to be kind of researched and hashed out. Regardless of the project, if it's a really expensive one or not that expensive one, there's going to have to be some research and some background done up for that particular project. So with goal setting being in February, even if you wanted to come back to it, let's say in March, it's really not gonna be enough time to kind of really think about the projects and come up with an accurate cost estimate, or whatever the plan scope of the projects may be. Kind of the same thing with the fee schedules, to use that. The fees, well, we'll get into the fee schedule in the next item, but really anything that comes out of it is gonna need some staff time behind it to think about it. What's the project look like? What's the whole scope? Where is it gonna be? And again, I don't have anything specific project in mind, but there's just, it's not as simple as just throwing a project and a number kind of in there. It's gotta be thought out a little bit.
Thank you.
While you're in front of your microphone, would you like to make a motion?
Motion to adopt the 2025-2031 capital improvement plan as presented.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, consideration of user fee schedule for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up next for commission consideration is approval of the user fee schedule for fiscal year starting July 1, 2025, or January 1, 2025 for the summer season fees. So this time of year, we usually bring around a fee schedule to the commission for consideration. Throughout the year, if there's a need to add on a fee, this is about the time that we add them on. Anything that's increases, for the most part, is increasing due to the cost for us to provide that particular service. In the document itself, anything with an X to the right of the fee is something that has changed. If there's an X next to something that didn't change, then it was probably just a typo. But for the most part, the X's indicate any kind of fee that may have been added or changed for the year. And again, primary change behind a lot of these is the cost to provide those services. And this doesn't include any changes to water or sewer rates. We typically do those during the budget cycle, so.
One question that I have, and as you know, but anyone else listening, probably not. We have met recently with some folks who had issues in regards to the Riverside Cemetery. And from what I gather from that meeting, one of the issues is the lack of funding, because people buy in, they get their perpetual care, or they're supposed to receive the perpetual care. And obviously, we can't raise that rate because, they're kind of locked in. But I was wondering if we shouldn't really, go over those items, not at this meeting specifically, but, go over the financial needs of the city as far as maintaining the cemeteries, and possibly raising some of the rates for those who are incoming, so they can be guaranteed to have the type of care that, that they would want to have in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, you set that meeting up with Director Perrin and I just a couple weeks ago, so there wasn't a whole lot of time to take in kind of their comments there. But if the commission is interested in kind of having a workshop to get a little bit more into the cemetery operations, we'd be happy to do that. I think that could be a request at the commission meeting, or even something that kind of comes out of the process with goal setting up here in about a month or so. So happy to entertain whatever commission's direction is on that one. We can get into the finances, we can get into the actual cemetery operations, talk about what's going on, the challenges, some of the opportunities that maybe the staff has out there as well. But again, would be happy to entertain the commission's direction, either in goal setting or at a normal meeting, however you want to pursue that.
Thanks. Two other things, just in regards to the fee schedule from my standpoint. I see that there's a new fee, and there are a couple new fees or permits, et cetera, and one involves a $50 block party permit. And I was wondering, how we're defining block party versus other special event.
So block parties, I'm just trying to find it. Block party permits, all right. So block party permits are typically your neighborhoods having a block party. We did one when I was in Vassar. We got barricades from DPW. They brought them out. They shut down the road. All the neighbors came out, the whole neighborhood. We had a little party on the street. So I would say it's a little bit different in the sense that it's just more isolated within the neighborhoods. There may be a little bit more involved in setting those up because there's usually, when there's a special event, it's either outside on like a lawn here in City Hall or a major section of the street is closed. These ones are a little bit smaller, a little bit closer, so there may be a little bit extra detour work that needs to go into them. But typically the block parties are actual closures of roads in neighborhoods so they can have some neighborly fun.
Now, what about something like a charity 5K? Would that fall under special events, or is there a different permit for that?
Special events.
Okay,
Special events, right? Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you very much. And my last comment was in regards to the prices, which are changing for the peddlers, solicitors, et cetera, licensing. And I noticed that there are four different permits for that. There's a weekly, a monthly, an annual, and a 6-month, not in that order. But I noticed that the weekly and the monthly increase is going to be the same, as are the 6-month and the annual. And I think that it might be more fair, or, you know, might make more sense if the monthly permit for that were increased greater than the weekly, like the weekly's at a 5, and maybe put the monthly at a 10, and then with the annual being 25, as is the 6-month, you know, maybe one of the, you know, maybe the annual could stay at 25, and the 6-month could be at a 20, or, you know what I'm saying? You know, so that the increase is commensurate with the amount of time that you're asking for the permit, instead of the exact same. It
Yeah.
seems to me that a monthly permit shouldn't increase at the same rate as weekly, and vice versa, and the same thing with the 6-month and the annual.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have I guess we can do two things. If you want us to bring something back the next meeting, we can bring something back, just this item specific. We can approve the rest of the fee schedule if the rest of the commission is good with it. And we can bring that item back, kind of based on some of the direction there. If there's a motion, if you have some ideas on there right now, we could do a motion just on that topic. I guess I would prefer, just so it's a little bit cleaner, is if there is a motion for us to take a look at the peddlers and solicitors permits, we can pull that item out and bring it back up maybe at the next meeting.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments in regards to the user fee schedule? Commissioner Habusta.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just a couple, one first comment was one of the things I noticed in this is we've added some consistency, and I really appreciate that, where I used to joke that on one floor you get copies for one price, on another floor it'd be different. So I just, I recognize that's, well, it looks like a minor thing. It actually adds consistency to our fee schedule. I think that's really important. The other thing I would just add is I appreciate that we have gone ahead and looked at areas where we need to raise rates. I do think we're still low in several areas as well when we look at neighboring communities and things like that. But the question I had was, and maybe I missed in here because this is a big document, but did we look at a possible daily boat launch fee? And if so, is that in there? Did administration consider that at all?
So that's being worked on at the Parks and Rec Committee. There was a conversation shortly after November's election. One of the Parks and Rec members mentioned that he would like to have that discussion, to which I asked him to bring it up at the Parks and Rec meeting and work through it with Director Perrin to get to this level. So we recognize that the fee schedule was coming to the commission possibly before they got that done. But given the potential size of that kind of conversation, we wanted to make sure it worked its way through the Parks and Rec Board first for a recommendation. and then coming to the commission. The fee schedule, as much as we try to do it all at once, the fee schedule is just like anything else. It can be changed at a later time. So let's say the Parks and Rec Board does have a recommendation on a marina fee in a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, sometime hopefully before the season. Then we can bring that to the commission as a standalone item and get that approved as a fee and put into the fee schedule. So that is something that's being looked at the Parks and Rec Board.
Anything else, Commissioner Busta?
Thank you. Just one further question. In regards to our slip rates, I mean, clearly we're at low, when we look at the specific schedule we're on there, we're clearly at the low end. How does that compare with our neighboring communities?
All right, you're talking about the marinas, correct?
Correct. I'm sorry.
All right, so the marinas, so the marina slip fees are established by the DNR. We essentially pick the tier. There was a conversation 2, maybe 3 years ago on the slips when we originally looked to increase them. Looking at some of the neighboring communities, it kind of depends on which community you're looking at. Some have more amenities and they charge a higher rate. Some have lower amenities and don't charge as much. It's been a while since I've seen that. I know the harbor master did look at, or does look at every year to see what some of the other marinas are charging. And I think we try to stay in the middle ground for the most part, so we're not, so that we're ensuring that we're covering the cost for the services, but not charging so much compared to somebody that has all the bells and whistles and all the things and trying to be on par with them. So we do take a look at it. I don't specifically remember at this point exactly how we compare, but it is something that we look at, and I believe we're kind of in the middle ground.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, where were we? I believe we were with Commissioner Marble. Would you like to make a motion?
Thank you. Motion to approve the user fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, or January 1st, 2025 for summer season fees.
Support?
Commissioner Rubenstein?
I actually agree with what you were saying before about pulling out the peddler, solicitors, and transient license. Do we need to make a separate motion for that before?
So you can do it 2 different ways, because there's a motion on the floor. Was the motion seconded yet?
No.
No. Okay, so there's a motion on the, huh? Oh, Tim did second it.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry,
so
didn't hear you, bud.
there's a motion and a second on the floor, with approval of Commissioner Marble and Commissioner Talentino. The motion can be rescinded and restated to be motion to approve with the exception of the peddlers. More or less, motion to approve the fee schedule with the exception of the peddlers permits to be reviewed at a future commission meeting. Or you can do motion to, why don't we just start with rescinding it? If you'd
Commissioner
like to-
Marble, would you like to rescind that?
Yes.
Okay, would you like
Support.
to, and would you like to change that?
Yes.
Go ahead, change it.
Motion to approve the user fee schedule
With the exception
with the
of-
exception of the peddler's fees for the fiscal year, to be
To be brought back.
brought back at a separate meeting, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, or January 1st, 2025, for summer season fees.
Support.
All right, having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 5-1. Number 10, operational budget review for the period ending November 30th, 2024. City manager, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Up next and last for commission consideration is approval of the quarterly budget amendments for the 2024-25 fiscal year, the current year that we're in. Included in the agenda item is a very lengthy but very informative narrative indicating all the necessary changes to fees and expenditures throughout the entire budget, everything from the general fund down to the component units, utilities, employee healthcare fund, everything. So a lot of information there. If you have any questions, we happy to entertain them. Otherwise, look for a motion to approve the budget adjustments as presented.
Does anyone have any questions about this or any of the items included therein? That's amazing. All right. Would someone like to make a motion, Commissioner Talentino?
Sure. Motion to authorize budget revisions for the 2024-2025 fiscal year as detailed in the report and attachments.
Support.
Having motion and support, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. City Manager, do you have any announcement or update?
Just a reminder, we have goal setting in February. That's already on your calendar. It's going to start at 8:30 for a little coffee networking, I guess, and then we'll start off at 9 o'clock. And then included in the item is just some project updates that are kind of out there and being moved forward on. So other than that, I don't have anything else right now.
All right, are there matters presented by the public? Seeing really only one person from the public in the audience who's not a city employee, we will go with no.
She's
Matters presented by the city commission. Anyone? With that, Commissioner Bosmus Rath.
Your Honor, motion we close the meeting. End the meeting.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?